challenged the outcome of the governorship that produced candidates of the PDP, Similai Fubara, as the winner.
Applied to INEC, to the court, for joint inspection of result sheets and electoral materials. So we have come physically to register our protest and our presence that INEC cannot allow any of the political parties to inspect materials without the order. We are saying, even us as PDP, don't allow us to inspect the electoral materials without the other political parties. That is coming to Equity must come with a clean hands. We don't want them to smuggle in fake results written by policemen. You are aware that a few nights ago, their operations were busted and they are left with no option than to bury their face in shame. So they are coming through the back door to see how they can smuggle in those results in the name of inspection. Inspection must be done.
We are here standing as the women of Rivers State to say that whatever they do, they should involve our people. They shouldn't do something in absence of PDP. Let the INEC know it well that this is the Rivers State. This Rivers State is PDP, and we cannot be here. Anybody will come and rob our mandate. We won't take it from them. So they should do the right thing. So PDP
and grab my shirt physically. They started throwing water at us. They began to punch me. They punched me from the back. And the next thing we knew, they started throwing missiles. Stones, bottles started coming down. My DSS and personal security, determined that I must get out of here, physically carried me out and pushed me into my security. In the process, they threw stones. They got a serious injury on my shoulder here, where a stone hit me at the shoulder right now. My cars, 2 of our cars or 3 of our vehicles were destroyed. Come on, democracy. It's a disgrace. So,
in Kogi State, a number of people have been feared killed after gunmen yesterday invaded communities in Oganiegu ward of the Kina local government area of the state. Authorities suspect that the assailants were headsmen. Reports say the invaders stormed the communities, shooting sporadically and burning hundreds of houses in the early morning raid. A chieftain of the All Progressive Congress, APC, and the Oganiegu ward chairman, James Ada, was amongst those killed in the attack. In a statement, Governor Yahaya Bello called for calm over the attacks, describing the vile and satanic attack as a calculated assault on the peace-loving people of Oganiegu, who have enjoyed relative peace and security for years. Governor Bello said his administration will ensure that those involved are brought to book under the laws. The governor, however, advised the people not to take laws into their hands, as security agencies have been swiftly mobilized and deployed to the troubled areas to restore normalcy. In the meantime, the Kaduna State government has imposed a 24-hour curfew on Sabongari Nasarawa communities in the Chikum local government area of the state following the killing of 2 persons. According to a statement by the State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, the curfew is with immediate effect. Mr. Aruwan also said the decision was reached following a breakdown of law and order that led to loss of 2 lives in an incident of urban gang violence. The commissioner added that security agencies have been directed to enforce the curfew in the area and restore order while investigation into the incident has commenced. He also said security operatives have arrested 3 suspects in connection with the killings. And here in Osun State, the police command spokesperson SP Yemisi Okpalola has confirmed the release of the abducted trader who was traveling with her goods along the Ikirun-Osogbo road in the early hours of Friday. SP Okpalola said the victim was conveying some goods in a master vehicle from Kwara State towards Ile-Ife in Osun State when the vehicle was ambushed by some unknown kidnappers. The police spokesperson hinted that the driver of the vehicle managed to escape from the kidnappers and reported the incident at a police station in Iragbiji, where the men there immediately swung into action by going to the scene and were later joined by local hunters to comb the area to rescue the victim. SP Okpalola assured residents of Osun State that the police will not relent until the kidnappers are brought to book. The police spokesperson equally advised residents of Osun to be security conscious.
It's true that it does happen. It is around the Ayepe area between Oshogbo and Ikirun. One area there that it happened. We were told that some people, armed people, like 4 people, came out from the bush and they intercepted that vehicle. It's a kind of it's a Mazda car. It was only 2 passengers, 2 occupants in the vehicle. The driver and the passenger that he carried with a load. The other passenger, was a woman. And immediately we heard that information, the police swung into action, all the tactical squads, and even the DPO Ikirun divisional headquarters, and all these men, they swung into action to ensure that those ones that the people that were kidnapped were rescued unhurt. I want to assure you that the police will not rest until we ensure that these people are rooted out of their hiding places. These evil people, they are rooted out of their hiding places, and it will not happen in this area again.
And still staying with security stories, Inspector General of Police Usman Baba today met with the new chairperson of the Police Service Commission, Solomon Arase, a former IGP. Both parties met at the PSC conference room at the Federal Secretariat Abuja, where they discussed measures to improve the mutual relationship between the NPF and the PSC, as well as identify new pathways for stronger partnership. Speaking with journalists after the meeting, Mr. Baba disclosed that his visit will improve the relationship between the police and PSC, as well as enhance the security situation of the country. According to him, when there is proper leadership, sense of direction, discipline, promotion, and appointment, people will be motivated to do the right thing. Mr. Arase was quoted as saying all necessary supports will be deployed to ensure the NPF is repositioned for better service delivery. 7 persons were injured after a commercial bus somersaulted today as the driver tried to dodge an oncoming vehicle in Lagos State. Spokesperson for the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, Taufik Adebayo, who confirmed the incident, said the crash occurred in the Abule-Egba area of Lagos State. He said the driver was overspeeding, and in an attempt to dodge the Lagos Bus Rapid Transit that was coming, the bus hit the wall on the BRT lane and the vehicle somersaulted. Mr. Adebayo said officers of the agency were on ground and ensured that all the passengers inside the bus were immediately rescued. LASMA warned commercial bus drivers to stop overspeeding and obey traffic rules and regulations. To legal matters, the Lagos High Court sitting at the Tafawa Balewa Square on Lagos Island has dismissed a no-case submission filed by the suspended Assistant Superintendent of Police, Drambe Vande, who allegedly killed a Lagos-based lawyer, Omobolanle Rahim, on December 25, 2022. Justice Ibironke Harrison today ordered the defendant to open his defense. In his application on the no-case submission, ASP Vande had asked the court to dismiss the suit and discharge him, claiming that he had no case to answer. However, the prosecution, led by the Attorney General of Lagos State, Moyosore Onigbanjo, countered the argument and urged the defendant to defend himself, insisting that the prosecution had successfully made its case against him. Nigerian singer Habib Okikiola, known as Portable, has been granted bail by a magistrate court in the Ifo local government area of Ogun State. This followed the singer's arraignment today by the Ogun State Police Command on 5 counts bordering on assault. The accused, however, pleaded not guilty to the charges. Delivering his ruling on application for bail made by the singer's counsel, Chief Magistrate A.S. Shuneye granted him bail with bail bond of 300,000 naira and 500,000 naira, as well as 2 sureties who must reside within the jurisdiction of the court. The court, however, ruled that the defendant be transferred to the Ilaro Correctional Center pending the time his bail requirements are met. The case has been adjourned to April 26 for the commencement of trial. And to help matters, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says 922 suspected cases of cholera have been recorded across the country as of March 5th. The agency, in its latest cholera situation report, said the cases were reported in 12 states: Abia, Bayelsa, Benue, Cross River, Ebonyi, Kano, Katsina, Niger, Ondo, Osun, Sokoto, and Zamfara. The report said 32 deaths were reported from 6 states: Cross River, Ebonyi, Abia, Niger, Zamfara, and Bayelsa State. Of all the cases recorded since the beginning of 2023, Cross River State accounted for 70% of the culminative cases across the country. The state also accounted for 50% of all cholera deaths in the country. You're watching News at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, former United States President Donald Trump leaves Florida for New York ahead of his scheduled court hearing tomorrow. We'll bring you more on this when we return.
The Korean War of 1950 to 1953 pitched North and South Korea against each other in response to intrigues by nations beyond their border with different interests from those canvassed by the two brother nations. The Korean War had all the nuances of an external conflict induced by powers that were interested in subjugating North and South Korea. Japan had leveraged on its military power to annex Korea in 1900 and imposed a military union that did not sit well with the citizens. Japan not only lost its war of conquest against Korea, all its powers were obliterated by the effect of the World War II. The end of World War II got Korea divided into two nations along 38 parallel lines by the instrumentality of the United States of America and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. The Korean War lapsed into a Cold War when it stopped the prying eyes of external forces into the internal affairs of a nation now divided along its north and southern territories. Western Spring Television identifies the Korean War as a major event in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history.
Welcome back. This is still News at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. One person sustains gunshot injury during clash between PDP and APC supporters in Port Harcourt, Rivers State capital. Kaduna State government imposes 24-hour curfew on communities in Chikum local government following the killing of 2 persons. All Progressive Congress in Delta State expels Deputy Senate President Ovie Omoagege for alleged anti-party activities. And on the foreign scene, former United States President Donald Trump leaves Florida for New York ahead of his scheduled court hearing tomorrow. 8 months after the attack on the Kuje Correctional Facility in Abuja that saw the escape of over 900 inmates, the Nigerian government has been urged to intensify efforts to recapture those still at large. This comes in the light of reports that over 400 remain on the run after that attack on the custodial center. Emmanuel Ujuadugele completes the story.
Nigeria's security architecture in 2022 was marked by jailbreaks, including the January incident in Mandala Custodial Center, Kwara State, and May jailbreak in Agbo Prison, Delta State. This was a spillover of the multiple jailbreaks in 2021 that led to calls for the resignation of Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola, a call he rejected.
We are working with all arms of government, particularly in security, to make our custodial facilities impregnable. We will not rest until that is achieved. So that's assurance I want to give Nigerians. As to whether it calls for my resignation, I still don't see any need for that.
On July 5th, 2022, over 900 inmates, including 64 high-profile Boko Haram terrorists, fled the medium custody facility in Kuje Federal Capital Territory, the 20th jailbreak in 7 years. Hours later, the Islamic State in West Africa province claimed responsibility for the attack and released a video to buttress its claim.
Allahu Akbar! دولة الإسلام باقية الله أكبر دولة الإسلام باقية دولة الإسلام باقية دولة الإسلام باقية باقية بإذن الله باقية الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Security operatives later launched a manhunt for the escapees and about 421 were recaptured. But in November 2022, while inmates were still on the run, Mr. Aregbesola told the House Committee on Reformatory Institutions that the Nigeria Correctional Service needs more funding to secure its centers.
Except for the ones we are just building, most of them are very, very old. Actually, more than half of them predated our nation in age. So we are dealing with a situation that requires huge commitment of resources.
Despite this, 8 months after, around 400 inmates from the Kuje prison jailbreak remain at large. A security expert and retired officer of the Department of State Services, DSS Akinade, believes this does not bode well for Nigeria.
When those that escaped from prison custody, when nobody seems to be looking for them or they are not doing enough to recover them back into that facility, and that portends a lot of danger for the society. Now, that's a serious one, very indicting on everybody. Maybe we'll start from, like our president will say, from top to bottom. This is very, very indicting.
Stade also wants those at large to be apprehended, but says government must be decisive.
If you recapture them and it is still these same officers that were there that they are still coming to put them, then it would be like you doing nothing. Some of these prison officials, they have been at one particular posting for 10, 20 years with this same inmate. And they say familiarity brings content. It's not only content that it brings a lot of things. And I don't know how, at the end of everything, nobody gets punished. All these jailbreaks that we're talking about, tell me when last you had that somebody was pinpointed or there was a panel to look into this thing and they found some people guilty of all these things.
According to the Africa report, nearly 9,000 inmates have been released in jailbreaks in Nigeria since 2015, and about half of them are still on the run. Only 1,226 escapees have been recaptured out of a total of 6,620 inmates that escaped in 14 jailbreak incidents and attacks between 2016 and 2022. Emmanuel Ujuadugele, Western Spring Television News.
The All Progressive Congress in Delta State has expelled the Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omoagege, for alleged anti-party activities and other unnamed offenses. The Delta APC announced Senator Omoagege's expulsion in a letter dated March 31st, 2023. Senator Omoagege, the governorship candidate of the APC in Delta State, lost to the governor-elect Sheriff Obore-Wori, a candidate of the People's Democratic Party, in the expulsion letter signed by the chairman, Ulbo Isaac, on behalf of the State Executive Committee of the Delta APC. they unanimously resolved and adopted his expulsion as a member of the party by the Executive Committee of the Orogun Ward and Ugeli North Local Government Chapter. The Bartle Deputy Senate President was also accused by a chieftain of the party for not working hard in the state to garner votes for the President-elect Bola Tinubu, rather for himself. Nigerian media owners and publishers under the auspices of the Nigerian Press Organization today inaugurated the National Media Complaints Commission and the Ombudsman Initiative to watch the watchdog and regulate practice of the media. President, Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, Kabir Yusuf, declared that the umbrella body of owners, editors, and reporters of print and online journalists in Nigeria is taking the responsibility of regulating its work and conduct. The 9-member commission, which comprises prominent Nigerians drawn from the media, the bar, the academia, and civil society, is chaired by Emeka Izieze, a former managing director, Guardian newspaper. Mr. Yusuf, who is the chairman of Media Trust Group, publishers of Daily Trust titles, explained that the commission will serve as an independent forum for resolving complaints about the press quickly, fairly, and free of charge, maintaining high standards of Nigerian journalism and journalist ethics, and defend the freedom of the press and the right of the people to know. Chairman of the commission, Emeka Izieze, declared that the commission's mandate was not to gag the press.
For slaying real and imaginary enemies. The Ombudsman will call such people to order to appreciate that the power of the press should be used for common good and not for self-aggrandizement. To be effective, the physician has to heal himself before he can apply the cure to others. So according to its mandate, the commission, and I'm quoting here from the mandate document, is to serve as an independent forum for resolving complaints about the press, quickly, fairly, and free of charge.
We haven't always done the right things. And so when the public is complaining, instead of waiting for the people who don't understand what this job entails to begin to put us down and to insist on doing it their own way for their own selfish reasons, you will accept that an initiative such as this by the MPO, the MPAN, the Guild, the NUJ, and we have the MPO, and the initiative is something that is worth giving a shot. That's the only way we can keep our profession sane and keep our profession free.
Elsewhere, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has secured the conviction of a former convict, Olayinka Olatunji, and 17 others who were sentenced to jail for internet fraud in Ibadan, Oyo State. Olatunji was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment and a fine of 500,000 naira before Justice Demi Ajayi of the Federal High Court, Abeokuta, Ogun State, for yet another internet-related offense. He had on October 24, 2022, been convicted and sentenced to 1 year imprisonment by Justice Uche Agomo of the Federal High Court, Ibadan, Oyo State, for a similar offense. The EFCC said all 18 convicts were prosecuted by the Ibadan Zonal Commander of the Commission between March 6, 2023 and March 30, 2023 on separate one-count charge each. They all pleaded guilty when the charges were read to them. The court ordered that the convicts restitute their victims and forfeit all items recovered from them to the federal government. Meanwhile, operatives of the Makurdi Zonal Command of the EFCC have arrested 17 suspected internet fraudsters in Makurdi, Benue State. The commission said they were arrested following actionable intelligence. Items recovered from them include mobile phones, ATM cards, laptops, Lexus and Toyota Camry cars. Authorities say the suspects have made useful statements and will be charged to court soon. Chief Whip of the Senate, Orji Kalu, has announced the death of his first wife, Ifeoma Kalu, who died at the age of 61. In a post on his official social media page, the former governor of Abia State said Ifeoma was a woman of virtue who was committed to the service of God and humanity. He said a memorial service in her honor is scheduled to hold in the United States. Senator Kalu urged the public to remember Ifeoma and her loved ones in prayers during this difficult period. On the foreign scene, former United States President Donald Trump has left his estate in Florida to New York ahead of a scheduled court hearing tomorrow. The 71-year-old earlier revealed in a post on his social media platform, Truth Social, that he will spend the night in the Trump Tower. Mr. Trump is facing charges related to hush money payments made to a porn star before the 2016 election. The exact charges he faces are not yet known, but they will be read in full when he appears at the Manhattan Criminal Court building at around 14:15 local time. The former president will be escorted by members of the U.S. Secret Service and will reportedly fly to New York's LaGuardia Airport on his personal plane. The former president will experience standard arrest procedure, being fingerprinted and photographed before investigators complete the usual paperwork and check for outstanding warrants, but he is not expected to be handcuffed. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said Finland will officially become a member of the military alliance tomorrow. Mr. Stoltenberg made this known to reporters in Brussels, stating that the alliance will welcome Finland as the 31st member. He further stated that the alliance has not seen any changes in Russia's nuclear posture since President Vladimir Putin's announcement that he will station tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. Last week, Mr. Putin announced that he intends to place tactical nuclear weapons on the Belarus border to help fend off attacks on Russia.
Nation has the right to choose own path. It's not for Moscow to decide who is going to be a member of NATO or not. It's for the applicant countries and for NATO to decide. And this is very clearly demonstrated here at the NATO headquarters tomorrow when we raise the Finnish flag and finalize the Finnish accession process. This is also good for Sweden. It makes Sweden even more integrated into NATO and makes Sweden even more safer, with also then Finland, a close neighbor, as a member. And then at the same time, as we celebrate and enjoy that Finland is now a full-fledged member, we should continue to work to also finalize the Swedish accession process. And I will continue to work hard on that. I'm confident that we will succeed. And in the meantime, Finland will be in a much, much better position.
In the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has set out plans for a police task force to tackle grooming gangs, as he said political correctness had hindered efforts. The government said specialist officers will be sent to help local forces with their investigations. It said better ethnicity data will help ensure abusers do not evade justice due to cultural sensitivities. Mr. Sunak said for too long, political correctness had prevented the weeding out vile criminals who prey on children and young women. He stated that his administration will stop at nothing to stamp out these dangerous gangs. Meanwhile, Labour said it called for expanded police specialist teams nearly a decade ago, but the government failed to act.
Together, but nothing is more important than the protection of our children, and I know that all of you here today are absolutely committed to stamping out grooming gangs and this sickening abuse of young people. Now, it is an absolutely horrific crime, and the fact that grooming gangs are preying on young people across our country and our communities is a huge failing, both morally and practically. Now, the problem is more prevalent in our communities than people have been comfortable acknowledging, and that's why, as Prime Minister, I vowed a major crackdown to bring the perpetrators of this awful crime to justice. So today we're launching a new grooming gang task force, police-led, to root out these criminal gangs, and I want to welcome members of that task force here with us today. Specialist police officers are going to be able to be sent into communities using the expert techniques to help us cramp down on these crimes. They're also going to have a specialist team of data analysts working with them, because we know that the better use of data can help uncover hidden exploitation. And in general, we can't turn a blind eye to this type of offending. We're also going to toughen up sentencing, something that Suella will talk about, and we're strengthening the National Whistleblowing Hotline, working together with the NSPCC. I think taken together, this represents a very significant set of actions to stamp out this appalling abuse of our young people. We should leave no stone unturned. We should keep going until we can root out this horrific crime. That's what the Home Secretary and I are committed to doing, and we're grateful for your time and support in this endeavour today.
And turning to Asia, Malaysia's lower house, the Dewan Rakyat, has approved legal reforms to abolish the mandatory death penalty for some offences. The bill, which will now go to the country's upper house, Dewan Negra, and then to the king to be signed into law, was passed this morning. Under the amendments passed today, alternatives to the death penalty include whipping and imprisonment of between 30 to 40 years. The new jail term will replace all previous provisions that call for imprisonment for the duration of the offender's natural life. Life imprisonment sentences defined by Malaysian law as a fixed term of 30 years will be retained. And still ahead, oil prices surge after several largest exporters announce surprise cuts in production. We have more on this and other business stories after this break. Please stay with us.
Ahmadu Bello, Prince Royal, was born 6th of December 1910 at Rabba Village, Sokoto, northwestern Nigeria. His father was a district head and heir apparent to the Sultanate throne from the house of Usmanu Danfodio, a religious and social reformer who brought the Habib dynasty under the Fulani Caliphate in the beginning of the 19th century. Ahmadu Bello raised the bar of political consciousness and participation when, in 1944, he engineered the establishment of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) as the first political party in northern Nigeria and the rallying point for politicians in the region before independence. History will not forget Ahmadu Bello for his charisma and political sagacity, which provided easy passage for his kinsmen to assume political and administrative positions in Nigeria's post-independence era. The distinguished elder statesman and Sardauna of Sokoto has his face on his country's 200 naira currency as a mark of honor to one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. Western Spring Television identifies Ahmadu Bello as a watershed character in history. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born 25th October 1900 and was killed on 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history.
You're welcome back. Now to business news. Nigerian Exchange Limited says it has suspended trading in the shares of Sterling Bank PLC. In its weekly report of market activities, the local board said the suspension took effect last Thursday. NGX said the suspension was in preparation for a restructuring of the bank. Sterling Bank is concluding arrangement for its transition from a commercial banking group to a holding company. NGX, the suspension is required for the purpose of determining the shareholders who will qualify for the scheme. The Debt Management Office, DMO, has announced an offering for 2 federal government of Nigeria saving bonds for subscription at 1,000 naira per unit. The agency said the offer will be opened on April the 3rd and closed by April 7, 2023. In a statement, DMO said the first offer is a 2-year FGN saving bond due in April 12, 2025 at an interest rate of 10.033% per annum. The agency said the second issuance is a 3-year FGN saving bond maturing on April 12, 2026 at 11.033% per annum interest rate. Meanwhile, oil prices have surged after several of the world's largest exporters announced surprise cuts in production. The price of Brent crude oil is trading above $84 a barrel after jumping by more than 5%. Brent crude prices rose after Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and several Gulf states said they were cutting outputs by more than 1 million barrels of oil a day. In addition, Russia said it will extend its cut of 500,000 barrels per day until the end of the year.
Oil prices spiked Monday after OPEC Plus producers unexpectedly announced that they would cut output. Brent crude, the global benchmark, jumped 5.33% to $84.15 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate, the U.S. benchmark, rose 5.42% to $79.79. Both were the sharpest price rises in almost a year. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and their allies, including Russia, took markets by announcing further production cuts of about 1.16 million barrels per day on Sunday. The cuts will start in May and last through the end of the year. An official with the Saudi Ministry of Energy was quoted as saying by Saudi state-run news agency SPA. The Biden administration, through a spokesperson for the U.S. National Security Council, said the move announced by the producers was unadvisable at the moment, given market uncertainty, and some analysts questioned OPEC Plus's rationale for the extra production cut. Brent fell last month towards $70 a barrel, the lowest in 15 months, on concerns that a global banking crisis and rising interest rates would hit demand despite lower OPEC oil output in March due to a halt in some of Iraq's exports. Energy giants BP and Shell saw their share prices rise on Monday, with both rising more than 4%. Oil prices soared when Russia invaded Ukraine, but are now back at levels seen before the conflict began. Economists warned that higher oil prices could make it harder to bring down the cost of living, but the RSC fuel spokesperson Simon Williams said it does not expect petrol oil prices to rise unless the higher oil price is sustained over several days. Yael Salvin, chief economist at KPMG, warned that the oil price surge could make the battle to bring down inflation harder. OPEC Plus oil producers account for about 40% of all the world's crude oil output. Saudi Arabia is reducing output by 500,000 barrels per day and Iraq by 211,000. The UAE, Kuwait, Algeria, and Oman are also making cuts. With oil prices now rising, inflation could remain higher for longer, adding pressure to a hard-button issue for consumers around the world. Temitope Ajijola Oluwaola, Western Spring Television.
And welcome to the world of sports. Jurgen Klopp has said he is still Liverpool's manager because of the past rather than his team's current form. Leicester City's Brendan Rodgers and Chelsea's Graham Potter were sacked yesterday, meaning a record 12 Premier League managers have been dismissed this season. Liverpool are in danger of their worst league finish under Klopp, whose team visits Chelsea tomorrow, but his position is yet to come under scrutiny. Klopp has helped Liverpool win club football's major honours during 7.5 years at Anfield, making him the longest-serving manager in the Premier League. Meanwhile, Chelsea's new interim manager, Bruno Saltor, says it has been a difficult 24 hours for everyone at the club after the sacking of Graham Potter. Saltor stated this in his pre-game press conference ahead of his side's tie with Liverpool, revealing that he has already spoken to the former manager.
I can do it. It's been really difficult at every single level, and especially emotional. Obviously, you have to deal with the press conference. You have to deal with the players. But what's hard, the relationship with Graham and Billy. It's difficult to deal with that. How it affects to the families. As I said, really difficult 12 hours.
The elephant in the room is probably, from your point of view, why I am still sitting here in this crazy world. Last man standing.
Third longest in the Football League, but apparently not.
Oh, great. So, yeah, I think both clubs are not in the spots where they expect to be. I cannot really say a lot more about it. Yes, would I say I know them well? I respect them a lot. To be honest, I like both. When I met them, they're really, really good people and fantastic managers, both of them. But still, things can go the wrong way. And then when the decision makers in the club think they have to change, then they change. I think, well, we all accept that part of the business. And that's it pretty much. But that's it. It's a strange week, I would say. Conte was last week, Nagelsmann. So, and all these two. So, the season gets into the decisive part and people are afraid of maybe not reaching their target.
And to tennis, Novak Djokovic returned to #1 spot in ATP rankings published today despite missing US tournament last month because of his lack of COVID vaccination. Carlos Alcaraz had taken the top ranking from Djokovic after victory in Indian Wells, but the Spaniard bowed out of the semifinals of the Miami Open on Friday to allow the setback for a record 380th week as #1. Djokovic has a 380 points lead over Alcaraz, with Greece's Stefano Tsitsipas in third, more than 1,000 points behind the leading duo. And that's all at this hour, but before we go, here is a recap of our major stories. One person sustained a gunshot injury after being hit by a stray bullet when supporters of the People's Democratic Party PDP and the All Progressive Congress APC clashed in Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, today. The Kaduna State government has imposed a 24-hour curfew on Sabon Garin Nasarawa communities in the Chikum local government area of the state following the killing of 2 persons. The All Progressive Congress in Delta State has expelled the Deputy President of the Senate, Ovie Omoagege, for alleged anti-party activities and other unnamed offenses. On the foreign scene, former United States President Donald Trump has left his estate in Florida to New York ahead of a scheduled court hearing tomorrow. Please do follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Tunde Ido. Good evening.